Hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. Look, President Trump makes no secret that he is not happy with Jerome Powell. I mean, after all, the DOJ now has launched a criminal investigation into him regarding the fraud surrounding these buildings. I actually don't think President Trump had anything to do with that. I think after his testimony in Congress, and it appears he may have lied to Congress, that you have people, members of Congress on that committee that made the criminal referral. I think that's where it came from. Now, it may be a step too far on Powell. I don't know if he has criminal liability and all this. If he lied to Congress, and certainly he needs to pay the price for that. But today I want to talk more about what's behind Jerome Powell. Why is he doing this? Why is he refusing to lower rates, which we know would push the stock market already into a quicker pace to the stratosphere than it's already going? What's his motivation? I think he just hates Donald Trump, and he doesn't mind hurting all of you with his hatred to try to damage Trump, but there may be more to it than that. We're going to talk to the CEO of VRAinsider.com. VRAinsider.com. This is fabulous, folks. You're going to get a 2-week trial. This is not like some kind of crazy day trading system. They're promising 200% in a day. This is about taking your portfolio and transforming it to return 35% a year. That's what they did in 2025. 35% in 2025. Tell me your 401k did that. Not. There's no way. They beat the market in just about every year, except for 2 over the last 20-something years. Okay, so they have a history behind this. VRAinsider.com. Sign up for that 2-week trial, and I promise you, you're going to love it because you're going to start making money like never before. VRAinsider.com. We're grateful for their support of this program. All right, with that, let's get the show started. Folks, here we go.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
All right, welcome everybody. As promised, the CEO of Vertical Research Advisors, Kip Herriage, is here, making him look all fly, and then got the putting the eyebrows down. That's what happens when you get old, Kip. The eyebrows start to fly away. I'm right there.
Man, I just worked out before this show, and I swear I'm sweating profusely. So sorry about that.
No, my man, it's great to have you on, and I wanted to ask you because you sent me a little teaser in the email before the show that said let's talk about Jerome Powell. What's your thoughts on him? What's really behind these actions of being too late, Jerome Powell?
All right. Yeah. First of all, a little background. I've done this 41 years, so I think when I say something like I'm about to say about Jay Powell, it should carry some weight. Since Jay Powell got the job in 2018, we've been calling him to resign really from his first year. In 2018, again, Trump did appoint him, but in 2018, Powell almost crashed the economy. He created the worst fourth quarter that we'd ever had in this country for the stock market, a complete crash. They had to halt trading on Christmas Eve because they were hiking rates in December when no one was around to buy stocks. And so it was clearly political. Anyone that was just paying half attention could see that. You're exactly right about that. But he goes beyond that, Grant, because we think he's the worst Fed chair of our times. And there's a lot of evidence to back that up. He clearly does not like Trump. There's evidence of that. There's someone caught on tape, one of these gotcha videos that worked with Jay Powell that said that it's widely known that Powell hates Trump. So we know it's political, but it goes so much deeper than that. And this is what the hypocrisy, it's the hypocrisy of the Federal Reserve that I think gets under everybody's skin so much. They always talk about we're here for all Americans. That's our job, right? To keep wages or to keep inflation low and prices stable. That's not the case, though, with these guys. That's not what they do. Right now, they're losing $100 billion a year on their QE program. This is something that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has just started talking about. And for the average person, the second American, you're getting crushed. You're getting crushed by the Fed, keeping rates too high, as you said.
Explain to me, for people watching that may not know what the QE program is.
Well, that's basically money. It's a money printing program. They're basically taking money that they print. They print this money into existence. All right. It costs them 1 penny for something like every $100,000 they print. That's what they pay for it. And they print it. They get the money into the markets, get it moving. Well, what that's done is it's destroyed our dollar. Since the Federal Reserve was created in 1913, the U.S. dollar has lost 98% of its value. Here's what that means for the average American. my mother used to be able to stay home with me. All right, my dad worked. That probably was the case for most of our generation. That didn't work anymore. Both parents in most families have to work, and that's because of the Federal Reserve. This is what most people don't realize, and everyone should know. It's because of the Federal Reserve and their monetary inflation destroying the value of our currency that both parents have to work, and one income just doesn't get the job done anymore. And that's all at the feet of the Federal Reserve, Grant.
So, do you think, Kip, that Jerome Powell is just plain dumb when it comes to his policies? That he's well-intentioned but wrong on everything? Or do you think there's something bigger at play with him, that this is purposeful in his lack of action on all of this?
It's entirely purposeful. There's no doubt about it. He's not a dumb guy. He comes across like the grandfatherly type, and I think that's how he'd like people to see him, but that's just not the case. Thinking about Jay Powell and the Federal Reserve, as I said a minute ago, all they've done is destroy our currency. But it goes much deeper than that. This Federal Reserve acts exactly the wrong way at the wrong time, and it's entirely political. I think that's what's really happening with Trump here.
All right, so
Trump knows that if he digs here, he can find leverage about the Federal Reserve because they're part of the deep state. There's no doubt about that.
Well, that is 100% true. So is the motivation, you think, when we say entirely political? Certainly, you have Trump at the tip of the spear, right? Who's rooting out the deep state, wants to upend the swamp, and is trying to get America back on track. But it is also bigger than just Trump. I mean, there is a groundswell of enthusiasm towards America first mentality now. Is it about pushing back against all of that and keeping it the old ways, that the old guard is in control and they drive monetary policy and the economy in this country, and they're willing to hurt the economy just to squash all of us?
Yeah, I think that is the case, unfortunately. Again, the second America is being crushed because of high interest rates, absolutely destroyed. And that's something the Fed can control. We don't have inflation now. We got the CPI report this week, and it just didn't show any inflation. Matter of fact, we now have disinflation. And as you know, we think that's going to continue in this innovation revolution that we're now just first inning of. We're going to have disinflation, probably deflation is going to be the case in 5 years. And of course, the Federal Reserve knows this, but they're always on the wrong side of the coin. And that cannot be an accident. We don't think it is. We think this is political. And again, it's the deep state. My good friend, G. Edward Griffin, who wrote the Bible on the Federal Reserve, the creature from Jekyll Island. I've known this guy for 25 years. And he says there are 7 cartels that rule the planet. And the banking cartel is the most powerful of all, led by the Federal Reserve. Again, most people just aren't aware of this. But if they were, I think their anger would be redirected at the Federal Reserve, Jay Powell, and his team of banking cabal insiders.
Well, the power as always seems to be in the money. And those who have the most money have the power. We see that with George Soros and so many others of the billionaires that have tried to do so much harm to America for their own personal gain and their own political agenda, of course, as well. So what needs to happen, Kip, then to turn around? Is it simply that Jerome Powell needs to go? I mean, we still have the Federal Reserve. We're still going to have all of these Federal Reserve branches across the country. I imagine they're basically occupied by deep staters as well. What needs to happen?
I think it's going to have to be a gradual process. Look, if we shut down the Federal Reserve right now, they would crash the entire system. It's the biggest fear that all of us in the business have, is that if something happens to the Federal Reserve and this battle takes place between Trump, and remember, it's Trump and Besson, it's not just Trump, then they would crash the system purposely. And so we can't have that happen. It would destroy everything globally, not just the U.S., but globally. And so it's got to be a gradual process. And we think we've seen the hints of this from Trump and from Scott Bessent. Scott Bessent is the best Treasury Secretary that I've seen in my lifetime. And he's a complete, he's right there with Trump on all these issues. I think it's a gradual process of taking the power away from the Federal Reserve, giving the power what it should be to the taxpayer, which means in this case, the government, the Treasury Department should be running much of this. Again, the Fed's losing $100 billion a year right now, and they're unaccountable for it. Who else could get away with that? The answer is probably no one.
My biggest fear on all of this is what happens when Trump's not the president, or if Vance is not the president, or if Marco Rubio's not the president. What happens if, God forbid, Kamala Harris or Hillary Clinton is the president, and you're getting the other side of things where it's not set up for good? Is there a way to set, when I say for good, like permanent? Like, is there a way to set this up where you insulate it from the radical left and the socialist faction of the Democrat Party?
Well, that's above my pay grade, but I will say I'm a big fan of Ron Paul and Rand Paul. I think they're great Americans, and they both believe the Fed should be ended. I think ultimately that's where we have to go. The Fed should not exist today. It's outdated. It's not required, and it's not where the power base should be. How we make that happen, Grant, I have no idea.
Do you know what I say about Rand Paul and Ron Paul? You may not like this, though. Actually, you may not like it. I say their good ideas are really good, and their bad ideas are really bad, and they got some of both. They got some of both of them there. As typically in my thoughts on libertarians in general, but anyway, I do understand, and their thoughts on the Fed, especially Ron Paul, those are good ideas, and I think those ideas are really good. Hey, if people like what you're hearing from Kip, I urge them to go to your website, VRAinsider.com. Why don't you just tell people a little bit about what you're offering there and how they can benefit, Kip?
All right. Yeah, as I said, I've been in the business 41 years. I retired from Wall Street at 38. I started the VRA in 2003. So now we're in our 23rd year of business. It's a family business, family office. My wife, both our sons work here along with our staff. And we're different. We don't have we're not a brokerage firm. We don't take your money. We don't invest it for you. We don't have those conflicts of interest. We're a financial publishing firm. We have multiple investment newsletters that we offer to our subscribers and to our clients. But what we tell you to do with your money is exactly what we do with ours. That's the real difference. With our family office, like a family hedge fund, everything that we tell you to buy is what we are buying ourselves. And I think that's why we've beaten the market 19 out of 22 years, because we have skin in the game. These Wall Street firms, they're really there to make money for the upper level, the top tier people, not for really everybody else at the firm, and certainly not for the investor. So that's the difference here. We have a daily newsletter. We have special reports. Again, you get access to everything we have when you come and try us out for 2 free weeks. And our updates are out every morning before the market opens. What did I miss, Grant? I think that's
35% for 2025. That's a pretty big one.
It was a good year last year. The year before we did like 29. The year before that we did 50. So the last 3 years, matter of fact, look, we've averaged close to 30% over the 23 years we've done this. So it's because we're locked in. I've done this. You do something 41 years, you ought to at least get decently good at it. And so I feel like that's where I am in my life right now.
Well, don't take a look at MSNBC or CBS. They got a lot of people doing it for 40 years. They're not very good at it. I can tell you that much. Doesn't hold true for the mainstream media, but certainly for VRA insiders and vertical research advisors and the work that you guys are doing over there. So let me ask you, we were talking about portfolios, and I love this stuff. I love talking about it, and I will ask you an opinion. I'm going to do this selfishly. Broadcom, Micron Technologies, NVIDIA, these chip makers, the whole market seem to rely on these things. Where do you think they're headed? Are they still a good buy?
I wrote this up this morning, which I think you probably saw since you're a subscriber with us here. I think that the semis are just beginning their move. Again, this is much more than just an AI boom. This is an innovation revolution of impacting every industry that exists, right? And that means these semis have to go in all of it. And I think that people that are calling this the next bubble, I think that they're way off base. I'll give you an example. We use leveraged ETFs as part of our approach here, right? Mm-hmm. In the last 2 months, we have gains of 81% in one of our ETFs. So if you know what you're doing and you know how, we have a VRA investing system that tells us where to invest, what sectors, what side of the market to be on, that kind of thing. And it started flashing enormous buy signals at the very bottom of the bear market. And 3 years ago, right? We went bullish that day. We've been the biggest bulls in America for the last 3 years, and that's not changing. So I think the semis will continue to lead the way. And by the way, we want them to lead the way because in all of our studies, all the work we've done, when the semis are leading the market higher, the market keeps going higher. That's the tell. So yeah, we think the semis are a great buy here.
All right. Another individual stock that I know you like is Tesla. And the reason I talk about it, because it seems like everybody, if you got a 401k or somebody manages your money, everybody has a little bit of Tesla in there.
Right.
this company is much more than just building cars. They got robots. I saw a Tesla robot walking through, this is not me personally, but on Instagram, walking through the DFW airport. Like what? It's crazy what they do at that company. Your thoughts on Tesla?
It's our favorite stock we call it the one stock to own for the innovation revolution is Tesla. They've got 10 divisions that are each worth at least $1 trillion, which means the stock is undervalued right now by at least 5 times and probably 10 times. I've owned the stock since $18 a share. It's like 440 now. We think this bull market is just getting started. But again, you nailed it. It's about Optimus, the robotic side, and it's about the driverless cars that are coming, the cyber cabs. This is going to be pretty exciting in the next couple of years, where if you want to have a car, don't want to have the insurance payments, you'll no longer have to. All you'll do is get your app out, hit it up, and you'll have a cyber cab waiting for you at your house in a couple of minutes at a fraction of the price that like an Uber or Lyft is charging now. So Elon Musk is a guy that you never want to bet against. He's unbelievable. As I said last week, to be able to have Trump and Elon Musk alive and to watch these guys do their thing during our lifetime, how special is that?
It really is. It really is amazing. So I don't know if I told you or not. When I got out of college, I went to work for AIG on the floor of the commodities exchange back in the day when they yelled and screamed at each other and threw cards into big nets on their orders and those days. And I used to look at charts then, and since then I still look at charts, and I love technical analysis. I think people can over technical analysis where you'll never get a signal because you've got 18 million signals. What I never really got involved with was fundamentals until I got older and I started holding companies longer. And I heard a saying a long time ago called "buy the jockey, not the horse." Bet the jockey, not the horse. Do you subscribe to that? Is it a combination of both? How do you pick it? And buy the jockey, not the horse, to anybody out there is saying, hey, look at the CEO. If he's got a history of successful companies, good chance he's going to have another successful company. Just like the great jockeys in the world are only on the best horses for the most part. Your thoughts on that?
It's absolutely the management team. This is what made Warren Buffett such a great investor, Peter Lynch such a great investor. It's our approach here. We want to find great management teams of great companies. And as long as they continue to execute, why would you ever want to sell that stock and pay taxes on it? So that is really our approach here with what we call the VRA investing system. It's 70% fundamental, 30% technical. So it's just what you're talking about. We believe fundamentals are far more important as well. But the technicals do give you the signals. And that's what confirms what you're learning with the technicals. So they are both important. But in our VR system, we have 12 screens. Again, 7% fundamental, 30% technical. And right now we have 10 out of 12 screens bullish. And that's back up. When that reading is that high, that's basically back up the truck territory. That means the market's going a lot higher, which is what we think right now.
I saw something, I think it was in one of your newsletters, that one of the things that concerned you most was that there were a lot of bulls out there. And typically you like to be a contrarian as bullish as you are. But you're still sticking with it, even though there's a lot of people out there saying, hey, this looks good.
Well, you ask all the right questions. I got to tell you, man, that's right. 2021, as they started the year, all 21 analysts that were interviewed by Bloomberg and CNBC said they were bullish for this year. That makes us very uncomfortable. We are definitely contrarians. We wished all 21 were bearish. But this is the bull market is beginning to mature now. And this is a very natural process where more and more people get bullish. Why wouldn't you? Look at the returns the last 3 years, right? So that's going to happen. We have our own indicators we look at that tell us when we're too overbought, right? And when we need to start taking profits. And we're just nowhere near that now. But you're right. I'd feel much more comfortable if everyone's bearish and bullish. But this is the evolution of a bull market.
Kip, what would it take to ruin that bull market? Is there something that events typically come and go? War breaks out. Okay, it takes a hit. A couple months later, you're back to where you were. But what would it take to just squash this?
Well, it'd be one of the black swans. The one that I've talked about I've written 5 books, and every book, the major black swan is Japan. They own the majority of the stock market, all their bonds. I mean, it's crazy. Their debt to GDP is 250%. We're 120. China is 300. So if something were to happen in those emerging markets or established markets, in Japan's case, we'd wake up and it'd be horrible. And so that's why we really believe a diversified portfolio is so important. just like we own stocks and ETFs in the market, we also believe you have to own gold, Bitcoin. Yeah, you have to be diversified, and there's a room for some cash and bonds as well. That's not really our cup of tea, but you've got to have diversification. Something bad were to happen, but again, we don't see that right now. We think that we're in the Roaring 20s. History doesn't always repeat, but it often rhymes. This is like the 1920s, which is a phenomenal time to be an investor, and we think that the combination of the Trump economic miracle, which we're seeing play out right now, the innovation revolution, and this absolute ocean of liquidity that's out there is going to continue to power the markets higher. But we'll see warning signs, usually if something were to happen. And we have no problem raising cash to get out of the markets. We're just not seeing those right now.
Yeah. Amazing stuff. And it's such great insight. And you spell it out in such an easy way for people at home to understand. That's why I love having you on the podcast, on the Real America's Voice show. And of course, it's why I love being a subscriber to your newsletter as well. Kip, I'm going to tell people how they can find you. I know the market's going on right now and you got some positions going and you got to hustle out of here. But I'm going to tell people again how they can find VRA Insider and all your knowledge and vertical research. And I appreciate you coming on. As always, it's a great pleasure.
Thank you, Grant. You're the best, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, the feeling is 100% mutual. All right, folks. So listen up. I want you to go to VRAinsider.com. That's Kip. That's not me. Here we go. I want you to go. Sorry, Kip. I got an upgrade in my looks there and my hairdo for sure. VRAinsider.com. That's VRAinsider.com. As you heard him say, 2025, 35% in 2025 and averaging around 30%, 1 year 50%. I mean, these are unbelievable returns, and it's so simple to process. I am now taking part in it myself. I would never push you towards anything that I don't do myself. VRAinsider.com. That's VRAinsider.com. You get a 2-week trial, and I promise you're not going to regret this. All right? Go crush the market with these guys. That's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tonight on the Real America's Voice show, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Stinchfield's Army rolls. God bless you, folks.